Okay, let's talk about some of the best and worst moments that we've got. Not all of them, of course, just a few um, that I want to talk about, and certain aspects that I don't think was handled well enough. Now, the first thing that I actually jotted down uh, a couple of notes here. The first thing that I wanted to bring up is the power scaling issue of One Piece. No, we're still going to do power rankings and all of that, uh, but I think I've said this already. But power scaling in One Piece, for the most part, it doesn't really make sense because once you get to someone, once you get above the level of someone that you consider to be a top commander person, once you get above that, every character has had some sort of portrayal where it's like they're on the same tier. Every character. There are times when sometimes it looks like Oda just operates according to what's more exciting in the moment to him, what's more interesting in the moment for the plot. So he lets certain things happen. Because there are times when there seems like there's a gap between a Yonko person and an Admiral person, and then other times it just seems like it's there's no gap at all. Um, and then there's this weird thing that's going on nowadays, and this would be part of the worst moments because even though I understand that power scaling, Oda doesn't really think that deeply into power scaling. It's something that I think that as a writer myself, I think it gets to a point where like, okay, this is too much people now because he was portraying Rayleigh as uh Roger's equal basically, and then we got Gaban, and Gaban is being portrayed as Rayleigh's equal, and that's just one example. But let's get to one of the main points of this part, and I want to talk about a couple of characters, Shanks and and let's see if I can find him here. See if I can find the image. Okay. I'm using OBS by the way, so copy, paste. Yeah, so Shanks and uh why is he so big? Yeah, Shanks and Mihawk. Shanks and Mihawk are who they're who I want to talk about here. And this is, and as I get into this, you guys will see why I'm saying that Oda doesn't really care that much about power scaling in terms of separating his upper tiers. Like every upper tier person has some sort of portrayal or some sort of statement or some sort of feat that everyone can argue. There's an argument out there for Akaino being the current strongest. There's an argument for Blackbeard being the current strongest. There's an argument that Kaido was indeed the strongest. There's an argument that old Big Mom that we saw in Wano was the strongest. There's an argument that Garp in his prime was the strongest. There's an argument that no, it's Whitebeard. There's an argument that no, it's Roger. So that's what I'm talking about when I say that every upper tier, even though we're still gonna rank them, we're still gonna find some small thing that we can cling to. But regardless of that, if we're being objective, every upper tier person has has an argument for being the strongest. Outside of Emo and Joy Boy, Emo and Joy Boy are the only two characters that we can all agree on or be or put as the pinnacle. Every upper tier under that is like on the same bar, including these two. And this is what I want to get to know. Because I personally I personally believe that Shanks is stronger than Mihawk. I believe that. I believe that Shanks is stronger than Mihawk. But my argument, my case for putting Shanks above Mihawk, even though it is implied that they both were swordsmen, their weapon of choice is sword. We got like a name for Shanks' sword as well. So, and we know that they were both clashing with each other. We know that Mihawk was probably the was likely the more established fighter, and Shanks was like the little brother coming up to challenge him, sort of. So we know all of that. But the reason why I would put Shanks above him is due to the Conqueror's Haki feat. And my argument is that Shanks, after he lost his arm, and it was apparently, we got some flashback where he's using both arms. I get the feeling that the arm that Shanks lost, I don't think we got confirmation about this, but the arm that Shanks lost was the one that he used primarily in his sword fights, especially his duels with Mihawk. And Mihawk lost interest after realizing that he lost his arm. But my deduction is that Shanks doubled down on Conqueror's Haki, doubled down on basically all versions of Haki, including Conqueror's, where it took to absurd heights. And so his fighting style now became more of, okay, I'm going to use the sword just out of convenience, just to channel my Conqueror's Haki. But my fighting style now is mainly to bombard my opponent with Haki. And we kind of got we got like a we've gotten hints in the story, in the post time skip, especially we during the Wano arc and during the, I think it was some point during the Egghead arc. I'm not sure where he attacked Kid, but we got some hints that that may be the case. Uh, but this is just my own deduction. This is just my own discretion. I don't know if that's what happened for certain. But here's the thing now. Mihawk is being portrayed as an actual Yonko level. With his bounty, he is we cannot argue against the fact that Mihawk is being portrayed as a Yonko level person. But here is where things get weird, right? If Mihawk is indeed the Yonko level person, world's strongest swordsman, right? Zoro, we say that Zoro has advanced Conqueror's Haki. We say that Zoro uh used he is using he's coating his sword with Haki as well. We know that Mihawk told him that you have to apply, I think it's armament, the more you apply to it, the sword to your sword changes to black. And we know that Mihawk has excellent observation. So what I'm getting at is it makes no sense for us to believe that Mihawk doesn't have Conqueror's Haki. And if Mihawk has Conqueror's Haki, and Zoro has advanced Conqueror's Haki, Zoro is chasing this guy. So wouldn't it be kind of weird if Mihawk doesn't have like max levels of all the three types of Haki, similar to Shanks? And if that is the case, right, and he is considered the world's strongest swordsman, what would become the argument for putting Shanks above Mihawk? Because at that point, Mihawk wouldn't just be on Shanks's exact level. It's not, no, he would definitively be above Shanks if that's the case. And then Luffy, who wants to surpass Shanks, And Zoro, Zoro wants to surpass someone that is above the person that Luffy is gonna surpass. Unless you want to invent a whole other tier where you're gonna put Roger, you're gonna say that Roger and Prime Whitebeard were like a whole tier above Shanks. But then you have to put them like two tiers above because Mihawk would be a tier above Shanks, and Zoro needs to get to that level, above that level, and then Luffy would need to get two levels. You, those of you who understand power scaling, you get the issue here with these characters. Oda, because Oda wants to keep everything equal, that this is where the confusion comes in. Because Mihawk, either you should have just what I just explained about Shanks and changing his fighting style and all that. Either you should have left more hints of that early on in the story, or you should have stopped trying to shoot Mihawk up that high. That is where the issue comes in. Oda likes all his characters equally, and because he likes all of, especially his upper tiers, because he likes all of them equally, he cannot separate characters when it comes to power scaling. And that is maybe not an actual moment. Well, yeah, it's a collection of moments from both. That is one of the poorer handled. Maybe saying worst is too harsh, but that is one of the weaker aspects of One Piece. But let's leave this one here. I'm going to probably be a little bit more positive in the next video. Yeah, peace.